My ex-wife had already lit our daughter's birthday candles when my heiress wife and I reached Willow Conservatory. Peter Lang, Claire's new husband, sat in the chair beside Ellie that had been reserved for her father. 9-year-old Ellie looked past him, found me in the doorway and whispered, "Mom said you forgot." Then Marina stepped in behind me carrying the midnight blue constellation cake Ellie and I had designed together in February. The 9 gold star candles on Claire's white cake were burning low. The 9 on ours were still wrapped beside the wooden carousel topper I had carved in my workshop. Nobody needed an explanation to see that both cakes could not tell the same story. Claire stood at the head of the table. The party started at 4. The invitation says 4:30. I kept my voice low because Ellie's friends were watching. I changed it in the family thread yesterday. I took out my phone. The last message from Claire was Friday morning, confirming Willow Conservatory, 4:30, candles at 4:45. Marina did not hold up her own phone or announce what she could prove. She crossed the room carefully, both hands under the cake board, and set it on the empty service table. Ellie climbed down from her chair. "That's my sky," she said. She meant the crooked arrangement of sugar stars. In February, she had drawn the night sky above my workshop from memory. She put the moon on the wrong side and insisted it stay there because, in her words, birthdays were not astronomy tests. The bakery had copied every mistake. Claire looked at the cake, then at Marina. "You were not asked to bring another one. Lucas ordered it," Marina said. "I picked it up because the bakery called to say the collection name had been changed." Peter stopped smiling. I looked at him. "Changed to whose?" He set his paper party crown on the table. "Mine." The answer did not make him guilty. His face made that clear before he spoke again. "Claire told me you canceled the custom order, and that I should collect whatever was ready." Ellie touched the wooden carousel horse on top of our cake. I had restored its cracked legs while she painted the saddle gold. It was the only part the bakery had not made. "Dad didn't forget," she said. Claire's mouth tightened. "A cake is not the same as arriving on time. I am 14 minutes early. For the old time, it is the only time you gave me." Marina moved between the two cakes, not between Claire and me. It was a small distinction, but I noticed. My wife had been born into a family that solved embarrassment by buying the room, firing the staff, or moving the event. During our first year of marriage, she had learned that none of those options made her right. She still had not learned to leave a problem untouched. "Ellie," Marina said, "do you want us to put out those candles and wait?" Claire answered first. "Her friends are here." Marina kept her eyes on Ellie. I asked Ellie. My daughter looked from the flames to me. "Will everyone be mad if we start again?" "Some adults may be uncomfortable," I said. "That is not the same thing." She nodded once, then start again. Peter reached for a water glass and extinguished the shortening gold candles one by one with wet fingers. It was awkward and undignified. It was also the first useful thing any adult besides Marina had done. Claire asked the other parents to take their children toward the craft tables. Their curiosity followed them, but the room stopped being an audience. "Outside," she said to me, "after Ellie gets the birthday she asked for. You think carrying in an expensive cake makes you dependable." "It cost $86, I said. "The topper cost me 3 evenings and 1 argument about gold paint." Ellie almost smiled. Claire did not. Peter stood. That was Lucas's chair. Claire turned toward him. "Please don't do this now. You said he agreed I should sit there." "I said we needed someone beside Ellie when the candles were lit. You said he wasn't coming." The room became still in a different way. Claire had expected opposition from me and authority from Marina. She had not expected her husband to separate what she said from what he had heard. I pulled out the father's chair and crouched, so Ellie did not have to look up at me. "I did not forget your birthday. Did you know the time changed?" "No." "Did Mom lie?" That was the question Claire had built and left for me to answer in front of our child. I could have answered with the phone in my hand. I could have made Claire the villain before the frosting softened. Instead I said, "Your mother told you something that was not true. We are going to find out why. But you do not have to solve it during your party." Ellie studied me with the tired concentration children develop when adults make language unsafe. "Are you staying?" "Yes." "The whole time?" I thought of the varnished walnut cabinet waiting at my workshop, the client arriving at 6, and the 3 employees who expected me to approve its finish. The whole time, I said, this time, I sent the message canceling the appointment before anyone could save me from my answer. Marina placed the constellation cake in front of Ellie. Peter moved to the chair across from her. Claire remained standing. We relit 9 stars. Before Ellie blew them out, she asked why the other cake had already been cut at one corner. Claire said the caterer needed a sample for the serving count. Peter looked at the untouched knife and then away. It was another small fact that did not match the story of a smooth party already underway. I did not pursue it. Ellie had asked for a restart, not an investigation. I took the wrapped gift from beneath my coat and placed it near her chair. Inside was a walnut music box she had helped sand during 3 Saturday visits. I had finished the hinge after she left, but the uneven row of stars carved across the lid belonged to her. "Did Marina remind you about that too?" Claire asked. Ellie heard her. "No," I said. "Ellie and I made it together." Marina kept cutting napkins free from their paper bands. She did not claim the weekend she had driven Ellie to the workshop or the evening she found brass screws when mine stripped. Her help had been real. So had my work. Claire's accusation was powerful because it treated those facts as if only one could exist. Ellie put the music box beside the carousel topper, 2 handmade objects surrounding the cake. When Ellie blew them out, she wished quietly enough that nobody could claim it for her. After the first slice, Claire placed a cream folder beside my plate. Inside was the agenda for the family mediation she had requested 6 weeks earlier. Monday's final item had been changed in red ink. Primary scheduling authority. "A cake proves you remembered one date," she said. "On Monday, we discuss all the others." Ellie was laughing with her friends again. Marina's fingers froze above the cake knife. I looked at the folder, then at the chair Peter had surrendered. Claire had lied about the birthday. The worst part was that I already knew what truthful evidence she intended to place beside that lie. The party continued because Ellie asked it to continue. That decision belonged to her. So the adults had to endure one another without turning the room into a hearing. I sat beside her while she opened colored pencils, a telescope kit, 3 books about horses, and a purple sweater from Peter that she immediately wore despite the warm conservatory. Marina cut the constellation cake. Claire served the plain one to the parents. The cakes divided the table more honestly than we had. Near the end, Peter carried empty plates to the service counter. When he returned, he placed a folded place card beside me. My name had been printed beneath a silver strip. Peter's name had been written across the strip in Claire's hand. "I did not ask her to do this," he said, "but you sat down," because Ellie was looking at an empty chair. That answer hurt because it was not cruel. Claire heard him. "Lucas has looked at empty chairs before." She opened the cream folder and removed a single page. There were no dramatic photographs, private investigators, or hidden recordings. Only 4 dates. The spring reading hour, I reached 20 minutes late. The dentist appointment Marina attended, because a client's delivery arrived damaged. The Saturday swim lesson I missed after promising I would close the workshop. The school garden afternoon I had entered on the wrong week. "You told Ellie you would be there each time," Claire said. "Yes, and each time someone else explained you." The parents were leaving now. Ellie stood by the coat rack with 2 friends, showing them the wooden carousel horse. She could not hear Claire's exact words, but she knew the shape of the argument. "The reading hour was late, not missed," I said. "You came after she finished. The dentist was an emergency. For your customer, the swim lesson was my fault. So was the calendar." Marina set down the knife. "Those failures do not make today true." Claire faced her. "No, they make today believable." It was the first sentence that changed the problem. Claire had not needed Ellie to accept an impossible lie. She had placed the lie inside a pattern I had helped create. I asked the conservatory coordinator when the party time had changed. She was a middle-aged woman named Joan Avery, introduced to both families when we booked the room. Her authority extended only to the venue schedule, but that was enough. Joan checked the paper booking sheet at her desk. "Mrs. Ward called at 10:12 this morning," she said. "She moved guest arrival to 4 and candles to 4:10. I asked whether all guardians had confirmed. She said yes." Claire folded her arms. I expected Lucas to receive the group update. There was no group update, I said. Joan continued before either of us could recruit her. The custom cake collection was changed to Mr. Lang at 10:26. The bakery called us because the delivery note still listed Mr. Ward. Marina's eyes shifted toward me. They called you, I said. At 11. Why? Because I was the secondary collection contact. I had not known there was one. Claire gave a short, humorless laugh. That is Monday's discussion. You changed the pickup name, Marina said, and you placed yourself behind Lucas on another promise. He ordered the cake. You made sure it arrived. Marina looked at me, rather than defending herself. That silence told me she understood the difference. We finished packing Ellie's gifts. Claire took the telescope because Ellie would sleep at her house that night. I took the wooden topper because frosting had entered one wheel and I promised to clean it. At the door, Ellie hugged me with the solemn force of someone sealing an agreement. You stayed. I did. Did you lose your customer? Claire looked sharply at me. I had not told Ellie about the appointment. Mr. Vale called Mom, Ellie explained. She said you had to choose. Mr. Vale was my workshop manager. He was not related to Marina despite the name, a coincidence Ellie found suspicious. The customer may choose another restorer, I said. That was my decision. Because of me. Because I made you a promise before I made him one. She considered that, then nodded. Claire led her outside. Peter followed carrying the gifts. Before he reached the car, he turned back. I will be at mediation, he said. I want the chair discussed too. Claire did not answer him. Ellie returned with a paper plate and asked whether the first cake was now the practice birthday. Claire told her there was no such thing. Marina said most important work had a rehearsal, which made Ellie decide the plain cake had performed a valuable public service. The joke lowered the temperature without erasing it. I watched Ellie distribute slices according to rules she invented as she moved. One friend received an edge because she disliked frosting. Another received the slice beneath the sugar moon. Peter was given a narrow piece from the plain cake and accepted it without protest. Claire received constellation cake from Ellie's own hands. Children are often described as resilient when adults mean they continued functioning around a wound. Ellie was not unaffected. Every time the conservatory door opened, her eyes checked it before returning to the table. When she caught me noticing, she said, I know you're here now. Now was doing more work than a 9-year-old should have needed from that sentence. Marina and I drove to my workshop in silence. The cleaned carousel topper sat between us in a bakery box, absurdly formal for a wooden horse with one gold ear. At the workshop, the walnut cabinet remained under its dust cover. My manager had left a note, client rescheduled. Monday, 8 a.m. final chance. Monday mediation began at 9. I showed Marina the note. I can meet the client, she said automatically. You do not restore furniture. I can keep him in the room until you arrive. That is the problem. She took a step back. I was trying to help. How did the bakery know to call you? Marina removed her coat and laid it over a chair. Beneath it, her deep plum blouse remained perfectly arranged. She looked composed because she had spent her life being observed when other people failed. In February, you said the cake order was handled, she said. The next morning, I called the bakery and added myself as backup. Without telling me, you had forgotten to pay the deposit. I paid it that afternoon, after they called me, because I asked them to try you again before canceling. The cake had proved I remembered Ellie's birthday. It also proved Marina had built a hidden system beneath my promises. I asked how many times she had done that. She did not pretend to misunderstand. The dentist, the garden afternoon, 2 school pickups, your mother's visit today. Claire knows. She knows I told her to call me if you became trapped at work. After the swim lesson, you gave my ex-wife a private guarantee on my fatherhood. Marina's face changed then, not anger, recognition. I did not think I was replacing you, she said. I thought I was preventing Ellie from watching an empty door. The carousel horse sat in its box between us. Claire's lie had made me furious. Marina's truth made me afraid the lie had been assembled from services I had quietly accepted. On Sunday morning, I opened the workshop at 7 and canceled the walnut cabinet appointment. The client had given me one final chance. I gave it to another restorer. My manager, Henry Vale, arrived 20 minutes later and read the transfer email twice. That commission pays half a month's wages, he said. I know. Are we in trouble? Not if I stop promising the same hour to 3 people. Henry had managed my floor for 6 years. He knew what the sentence cost before I explained. We moved Monday's other appointments, assigned him approval authority on standard finishes, and blocked every custody period on the workshop calendar through the end of the year. It was not heroic. It was late administration. For years, I had treated the workshop's dependence on me as evidence of devotion. Every damaged cabinet needed my eye. Every client deserved my personal call. Every delayed finish became a small emergency because I had designed the business around being indispensable. Marina had recognized the flaw before I did. Instead of demanding I change it, she built detours around it. A driver collected Ellie when varnish ran late. Her assistant moved dinner reservations. Marina herself sat in waiting rooms with forms already completed. I thanked her each time and returned to the workshop unchanged. The arrangement let both of us perform our preferred virtues. I remained the craftsman who never abandoned damaged work. Marina became the woman who could keep every promise in the room from breaking. Ellie received care, but she also learned that my yes sometimes meant Marina would arrive. The canceled commission would hurt. Henry and I listed the invoices it had been meant to cover, then chose which equipment purchase could wait. A family boundary that cost nothing would have been another performance. Blocking the custody schedule forced the workshop to become a business instead of an alibi. Henry received the cabinet keys I had kept on my own ring. He accepted them without ceremony, which was kinder than congratulating me for a responsibility I should have shared years earlier. At 9, Peter Lang came through the front door carrying Ellie's sketchbook. He had called first. She left it beneath the gift table, he said. Claire is at church with her mother. I thought you might need this before mediation. Need what? Not evidence, context. He placed the sketchbook on my bench and did not open it. Peter worked as an event photographer. He had married Claire 18 months earlier and had spent most of that time trying to fit into a family whose existing edges were uncomfortable. I had treated his politeness as strategy. At the party, he had been the first person to give back my chair. Claire told me you agreed I should handle the candles if you were late, he said. I agreed you should help Ellie whenever she needed help. Those are not the same permission. No. He looked toward the carousel topper, drying beside my tools. I should have asked you. You should have asked Ellie. I did after you arrived. She said she wanted her dad. There was no victory in hearing it. Peter continued. Claire wants reliability. I understand that. Her father missed every important day and arrived with gifts after the damage. But yesterday she wanted your absence visible. Moving the candles was not about protecting Ellie from waiting. It was about making Monday easier. Will you say that in mediation? Yes, even if Claire asks you not to. I can be her husband without becoming her witness against reality. It was the first thing Peter said that made me understand why Ellie liked him. Marina arrived after 10. She carried coffee for herself and nothing for me because, for once, she had asked by message and accepted my answer. Peter thanked her for the cake. Lucas ordered it, she said. You collected it. Both facts are relevant. He almost smiled. That should be Monday's title. When he left, Marina and I opened Ellie's sketchbook together. Most pages contained horses, constellations, dresses, and architectural plans for bedrooms no building could support. The final page showed the birthday table. There were 5 chairs. Ellie sat in the center. Claire and Peter were on one side. Marina and I were on the other. Above the table she had written one sentence in purple pencil. Everybody comes at the time they say. Marina sat down. She drew this before the party, she said. Claire probably saw it. So did we. She was right. The page had been photographed and sent to all 4 adults when Ellie proposed the party. None of us had treated the sentence as a rule. Claire moved the time. I built my workday against the last possible arrival. Marina prepared a hidden backup. Peter accepted a chair without confirming who had given it away. Every adult had planned around the possibility that another adult would fail. Ellie had planned for us to come. Claire called at 11. Peter had told her where he was going. "You invited my husband into your workshop before mediation?" she asked. "He returned Ellie's sketchbook and gave you his interpretation of our marriage. He gave me his interpretation of my chair. Lucas, this is exactly what you do. You turn every correction into an insult until someone else repairs the consequence. You told Ellie I forgot her birthday because from her position you changed the time and prevented the bakery from releasing the cake under my name. I changed the collection because I believed Marina would handle it. She always does." Marina leaned toward the phone. "Claire, I told you to call me when a plan failed. I did not authorize you to manufacture the failure." Claire went quiet. "You should both hear yourselves," she said at last. "He makes the promise, you make it true, then he calls himself dependable." The line disconnected. I wanted Marina to dismiss the accusation. Instead, she folded her hands. "She is wrong about yesterday," she said. "She is not wrong about the system." The sentence hurt more because she did not use it to leave. We spent the next hour listing every commitment I had made to Ellie during the previous year. I marked the ones I kept without assistance, the ones Marina protected, and the ones I broke. Marina marked every intervention she concealed from me because she feared I would call it control. There were fewer failures than Claire implied. There were more rescues than I knew. At one, Helen Cross, the family mediator assigned 6 weeks earlier after our scheduling disputes began, called to confirm Monday's session. She had already met each adult separately and spoken with Ellie once under the terms all 4 of us approved. "Will you be requesting separate rooms?" Helen asked. I looked at Marina. "No," I said. "I want everyone to hear the same account." "Will counsel attend?" Marina's family attorneys could have filled the conservatory. "No," I said, "not unless mediation fails." Marina nodded. After the call, she asked whether I wanted her at the table. "Yes, as my wife, not as my guarantor. Then I will disclose what I did, even if it weakens me. Especially then." I cleaned the last frosting from the carousel wheel and set the little horse upright. The question was no longer whether the cake proved I remembered. It was whether any of us could stop using Ellie's disappointment to edit the parts of ourselves we did not want examined. Helen Cross held the mediation in a plain office above the county family center. She was 53, a former family law clerk who now mediated scheduling and communication disputes before they became custody motions. Claire and I had selected her together 6 weeks earlier. Her authority came from our signed mediation agreement. She could control the session, draft a binding memorandum if we all consented, or declare an impasse that would send us back to court. Nobody mistook her for a surprise judge. Claire and Peter sat on one side of the table. Marina and I sat on the other. Helen placed Ellie's sketchbook in the center with permission from all 4 adults. "We are not deciding who loves Ellie more," Helen said. "We are deciding whether the adults can communicate without making her measure that love through attendance." Claire opened the cream folder. She began with my 4 failures. I did not interrupt. The spring reading hour, dentist appointment, swim lesson, and garden afternoon entered the record exactly as they happened. I explained each one without polishing it. 2 involved workshop problems. 1 involved a calendar error. 1 involved my decision to keep a client promise after it conflicted with Ellie's. "Did Marina cover 3 of those events?" Helen asked. "Yes." "Did you tell Claire in advance that Marina would cover them?" "Twice, not the first time." "Did you tell Ellie?" "Not clearly enough." Claire looked surprised that I had not fought the list. Helen turned to her. "Now Saturday." Claire described wanting the party to begin smoothly. She said she believed I might be late and did not want Ellie watching the door. "What time had Lucas agreed to attend?" 4:30. "What time did you move guest arrival?" 4. "When did you tell Lucas?" Claire looked at the folder. "I intended to update the group thread." "That was not my question. I did not tell him directly." Did you tell Ellie that he had forgotten? I told her we could not wait for someone who was not coming. Peter spoke before Helen asked him. Claire said the words, "Your father forgot again." I was present. Claire turned toward him. "You know what I meant." Ellie knew what you said. Helen made one note. Why did you move Peter into the chair marked for Lucas? Because a child should have someone beside her. Did Ellie ask for Peter? She did not object. Peter's hands closed together. She asked when her dad was coming. I should have stood up then. The alliance at the table changed without anyone announcing it. Peter had not moved to my side. He had moved out of the role Claire assigned him. Helen asked Marina how the constellation cake reached the party. Marina answered without invoking her family name, staff, or money. Lucas designed and ordered it with Ellie. He missed the deposit deadline by several hours. I asked the bakery to retry him before canceling and added myself as secondary contact. On Saturday, they called because Claire changed the collection name to Peter. I retrieved the cake. Did Lucas know you were secondary contact? No. Why not? Because I believed hidden support was kinder than making him confront the number of times he needed it. Was it? No. Helen asked how often Marina had privately guaranteed my plans to Claire. 5 times that I can identify, Marina said. Possibly 6 if Claire counted a weather delay. Claire slid a printed message across the table. Marina had written it after the missed swim lesson. If Lucas gets trapped at the workshop, call me. I will make sure Ellie is not left waiting. The message was real. So was the way Claire had expanded it. I believed I had a practical backup, Claire said. You had a contact for emergencies, Marina replied. You did not have permission to create one. Helen stopped the exchange before it became another version of Saturday. She opened Ellie's sketchbook to the drawing of 5 chairs. I met with Ellie on Thursday, she said. That meeting was scheduled before the party. She asked me to bring this page today. She also dictated 4 requests. Every adult agreed in writing that I could share them. The authority and source of the statement were clear before Helen read a word. Mom should not say Dad forgot unless Dad says he cannot come. Dad should not say yes unless he knows. Marina should not fix plans secretly. Peter should be Peter. No title appeared before Peter's name. He lowered his eyes. Helen continued. Ellie also said she wants to know the real time once, not receive different times from different homes. Claire's anger thinned into something less protected. She thinks I lied to her, she said. You did, I replied. Helen raised one hand. Lucas, accuracy does not require punishment. Claire, fear does not convert a false statement into protection. She placed 2 proposed plans on the table. The first gave Claire primary scheduling authority and required me to confirm attendance 48 hours in advance. It was the arrangement Claire requested. The second created a shared calendar, direct confirmation between parents, a prohibition on unilateral time changes, and a rule that substitutes could assist without assuming another parent's title or place. If you agree today, Helen said, I will draft the memorandum and each of you may review it before signing. If you do not, I declare impasse. Your attorneys may file whatever motions they believe appropriate. The deadline was for that afternoon. Helen explained that neither draft changed legal custody by itself. The memorandum would govern daily practice only if all parties signed. Either parent could still seek court review. That limit mattered. We were not being rescued from conflict by a paper with magical authority. We were choosing whether to make our own conduct measurable before a judge had to measure it for us. She also warned that Ellie's statement was not a vote. No child at 9 should decide which adult won. It was evidence of what our current behavior required her to monitor. Claire selected the first plan. I wanted to reject it immediately. Instead, I read the conditions. Primary scheduling authority would give Claire the control she wanted. It would also make my history easier to manage by removing decisions from me. That was the quiet temptation. Marina could no longer rescue promises I was not allowed to make. I would also become a guest in my daughter's calendar. I will not sign the first plan, I said, but I will add consequences to the second when I fail. Claire gave a bitter smile. Consequences written by you. No, consequences we can verify. Helen asked me to be specific. If I do not confirm by the deadline, I lose that event without blaming Claire. If I confirm and fail without an actual emergency, I reimburse direct costs, and the event enters the 60-day review. If Claire changes a confirmed time unilaterally, the original time controls. Nobody tells Ellie an adult forgot unless that adult actually failed to respond. Peter added, and no one assigns me Lucas's place without asking Ellie and Lucas. Claire turned toward him. Whose husband are you? Yours, he said. That is why I will not help you become someone you need to defend later. The room held the sentence. At noon, Helen called a break. We had 4 hours to decide whether truth would become a family rule, or only another weapon each side carried home. During the break, Marina and I walked to a small courtyard behind the family center. She did not tell me which plan to choose. That restraint looked simple from the outside. For Marina, it was work. If this reaches court, my family's attorneys will ask whether Claire manipulated the party to influence mediation, she said. She did. They will also ask whether I have functioned as your scheduling staff. You have. And whether your business makes your confirmations unreliable. It did. She looked through the glass door toward the table. I can protect you from some consequences. I know. Do you want me to? It was the question she had not asked when she added her name to the bakery order. No. She accepted the answer without becoming cold. Then what do you want from me? Tell the complete truth. Stay after it becomes expensive. I can do that. Inside, Claire and Peter were arguing quietly. Helen waited in her office so no private pressure could be attributed to her. When we returned, Peter had moved his chair several inches away from Claire's. He did not look triumphant. Claire looked exhausted. My father missed my 10th birthday, she said before we sat down. I had heard the story during our marriage. He arrived the next morning with a bicycle and blamed traffic. Claire learned to hate gifts that attempted to replace time. When Lucas missed the reading hour, she continued, Ellie waited beside the window exactly the way I waited. When Marina arrived at the dentist instead of him, everyone called it generous. I saw the beginning of the same pattern. So you made me absent on purpose, I said. I wanted you to understand what absence looked like. You wanted Helen to see it. Claire's eyes filled, but she did not use tears as denial. Yes, that admission was her darkest choice, because it removed the last protective explanation. She had not moved the candles only to keep Ellie from waiting. She had used Ellie's birthday to stage evidence. Helen returned and asked whether Claire wished the admission included in the mediation summary. Claire closed her eyes briefly. Yes. Then Helen looked at me. I could have accepted Claire's confession and kept my own pattern framed as ordinary work pressure. Instead, I asked for the schedule list and placed it beside the party timeline. Include that I accepted Marina's hidden interventions because they let me believe I was keeping promises I had already transferred to her, I said. Include that I told Ellie yes before checking whether yes was true. Marina did not rescue the sentence. Peter added his own disclosure. He had known the chair was originally mine because he saw my name beneath the silver strip. He sat anyway because refusing Claire in public felt disloyal. Include that too, he said. Helen drafted the second plan with revisions. One shared calendar. Times became valid only after both parents confirmed directly. No event could move within 72 hours without written agreement or a genuine emergency. If either parent failed to confirm, the other could proceed without telling Ellie a motive. Marina and Peter could help, transport, attend, and love Ellie, but neither could be presented as a replacement parent. Confirmed failures entered a 60-day review. Manipulated times entered the same review. Ellie received one version of every schedule. The plan also required Claire to correct the birthday statement to Ellie in the presence of all 4 adults. I asked Helen to add that I would correct the promises I had made without checking. Claire read the document twice. If he misses another event, I do not want to negotiate whether his workshop counts as an emergency. It does not, I said. Fire, injury, and actual danger count. Furniture does not. You say that after canceling 1 customer. I transferred the commission, blocked my custody schedule, and gave Henry Finish authority. You can verify all 3. And when the business loses money, then I live with the cost of making fewer promises. Marina said nothing about covering lost revenue. That silence was part of our agreement too. Before signing, Claire asked for 1 additional clause. If either household used staff, drivers, or assistants for an exchange, the parent had to name the actual adult in advance. She looked at Marina while asking. Marina agreed immediately. My resources should not make Ellie's schedule harder to see. I asked for a matching clause. Neither household could change an event to create a failure for review. Claire's face hardened, but she accepted it. Peter requested that the plan distinguish a step-parent support from parental substitution. Helen wrote that assistance did not transfer the absent parent's identity, title, invitation, or reserved place. It sounded formal because ordinary courtesy had failed. Then Helen asked each of us what we would surrender. I surrendered work accepted during confirmed custody time, unless another trained restorer owned it from the beginning. Claire surrendered unilateral control over family event schedules. Marina surrendered private backup arrangements made without my knowledge. Peter surrendered the convenience of accepting whatever family role made a public scene easiest. Helen read the completed clauses aloud. Each sentence named an action that could be observed, a deadline that could be checked, and a consequence that did not depend on anyone guessing another adult's motive. The plan finally contained costs for everyone, not restrictions aimed at one household. At 3:20, Claire signed. Peter signed as an acknowledged household adult. Marina signed the same way. I signed last, not because I hesitated, but because I read every consequence again. Helen scheduled the 60-day review and gave each household an identical copy. The memorandum did not make us kind. It made certain kinds of dishonesty harder. We went to Claire's house together that evening. Ellie sat at the kitchen table wearing Peter's purple sweater. The wooden carousel topper stood beside her cereal bowl. She had apparently decided it no longer required cleaning. Claire knelt first. "Your dad did not forget your birthday," she said. "I changed the time and told you something untrue because I was angry about other times he disappointed you. That was wrong." Ellie looked at me. "I remembered your birthday," I said. "I also made promises on other days before checking whether I could keep them. Marina covered for me, and I let that look like reliability. That was wrong." Marina sat beside me. "I fixed plans without asking because I did not want you to be hurt. It meant you could not tell who had made the promise. That was wrong." Peter crouched by Claire. "I sat in your father's chair. I should have asked you and him. I am Peter. I am not here to erase anyone." Ellie considered the 4 apologies. "Are you all done being wrong?" "Unlikely," Marina said. Ellie laughed despite herself. "Then what did the paper do?" "It tells us what happens when we are wrong," I said, "and it makes us tell you the same time." She climbed down and opened the refrigerator. Half of the constellation cake remained in its box. "Can we eat this without proving anything?" she asked. "Yes," Claire said. We ate small slices at the kitchen table. Nobody took a photograph. Before I left, Ellie handed me the carousel horse. "Next year I don't want 2 cakes." "What do you want?" "I want to bake one." "With whom?" She looked around the table. "Ask me next year," she said, "at the correct time." The agreement changed our lives through ordinary inconveniences. That was how I knew it was real. During the first month, I declined 3 rush commissions that crossed my custody hours. 1 customer left. Another waited. Henry approved finishes without sending photographs for permission, and the workshop did not collapse because my hands were absent. We earned less that quarter. Marina did not replace the difference. She also stopped placing invisible supports beneath my calendar. When a school pickup conflicted with a delivery, she asked whether I wanted help. Sometimes I said yes. Then I told Claire and Ellie before the plan changed. Sometimes I said no and moved the work. The distinction became visible. Claire followed the shared calendar with the severity of someone testing a bridge she expected to fail. For 2 weeks, every confirmation arrived exactly at the 48-hour mark. Mine arrived earlier. Peter stopped occupying ambiguous roles. At Ellie's next school event, he sat with Claire while I sat with Marina. Ellie moved between us without checking which man had the father's chair because nobody had labeled one for her. The first conflict came on a rainy Thursday when Claire's car would not start before a piano lesson. She asked me directly whether I could collect Ellie. I could not. Old Lucas would have said yes and called Marina. I said, "Number Marina may be available, but I will ask her rather than promise her." Marina was available, she agreed. Claire updated the calendar. Ellie received one message with one time. Nothing dramatic happened. That was the point. At the 60-day review, Helen asked Ellie whether the adults had followed her 4 requests. Ellie counted on her fingers. Mom tells the truth about Dad's answers. Dad checks before yes. Marina asks, "Peter is Peter." "Any failures?" Helen asked. Dad was late to piano pickup. "How late?" 7 minutes. "What happened?" "He called before. Mom said the same time. I read my book." Helen looked at the 4 adults. "That is a delay. It is not abandonment." Claire nodded. The mediation stayed in place. No custody motion followed. Claire corrected the birthday story with her parents and with the 2 relatives who had heard it at the conservatory. I did not ask her to make a public announcement. Ellie needed the lie removed from her family, not Claire displayed for strangers. Peter and I did not become friends. We became precise. He called before entering my workshop. I told him when I needed information rather than assuming he was gathering leverage. When Ellie asked him to photograph a school project, he sent copies to both homes. When she asked me to repair the frame, I returned it to both. Marina and I began meeting with a counselor twice a month. Our problem was not that she was powerful and I resented it. Our problem was that I used her power when it protected my pride, then called it control when the hidden cost appeared. Her problem was that she interpreted love as advance permission. The counselor gave us 3 questions. Who made the promise? Who knows the promise exists? Who pays if it breaks? We used them for school pickups, dinners, family visits, and the smaller promises marriages usually lose through assumption. Once, Marina discovered I had agreed to repair Claire's mother's dining table before a holiday. Her old instinct was to book transport and clear my schedule. Instead, she asked who knew. The answer was nobody except Claire and me. I called Henry, checked the work, and moved the delivery openly. Another time, Marina promised Ellie a museum afternoon during my custody weekend. I did not punish the offer because it came from wealth or generosity. I asked who paid if it conflicted. Marina changed the invitation from a plan to a question. Ellie chose Saturday morning, and I chose to come. The questions did not make us less spontaneous. They made spontaneity stop borrowing time from people who had not agreed to lend it. 9 months after the conservatory party, Ellie began planning her 10th birthday. She did not choose a ballroom, restaurant, or family estate. She chose the courtyard behind my workshop because it had long tables, string lights, and a wall she was allowed to cover with paper stars. The shared calendar listed 2 o'clock. All 4 adults confirmed 3 weeks early. Ellie asked Claire to bring the candles. She asked Peter to hang the lights because he owned a ladder tall enough to impress her. She asked Marina to help paint the paper stars. She asked me to bake the cake. "You know I restore wood," I said. "I do not restore flour. That is why I'm supervising." We practiced twice. The first cake sank in the center. The second leaned toward the oven door. Marina watched both failures from a stool and offered no replacement bakery until I asked whether she knew why the frosting kept separating. She did. She waited for permission anyway. On the morning of the birthday, Ellie and I covered the final cake in midnight blue frosting. It was less smooth than the conservatory cake. The constellation remained deliberately inaccurate. The wooden carousel horse stood in the center with its repaired wheel and one gold ear. At 1:45, Claire and Peter arrived with 10 candles. At 1:50, Marina entered carrying the box of paper stars. At 1:55, Henry locked the workshop door from inside and took the emergency number off the sign. No client could become more urgent than a promise I had already confirmed. At 2, Ellie opened the courtyard gate. Nobody watched an empty doorway. There was no chair marked father. There was a place beside Ellie, and she pulled me into it herself. Peter sat across from us. Claire sat beside him. Marina stood near the work table, looking at the finished cake. "Do you want me to carry it?" she asked. The year before, she had carried in the proof that I remembered. This time she waited beside something Ellie and I had completed without rescue. I looked at my daughter. "Your cake," I said, "your choice." Ellie nodded to Marina. "Carry it with Dad." Marina took one side of the board. I took the other. We set it down together without turning the gesture into a claim. Claire placed the 10 candles. Peter switched off the courtyard lights. Paper constellations glowed beneath the strings overhead. Before we sang, Ellie checked each face around the table. "Everybody came at the time they said," she announced. Then she made her wish. After she blew out the candles, she gave the first slice to me, the second to Marina, the third to Claire, and the fourth to Peter. The order mattered to her for approximately 6 seconds. Then she abandoned us for her friends. Marina touched my wrist. "Did you want me here today?" she asked softly. "Yes." "As your wife or your backup?" "My wife." She smiled. "Good. I resigned from the other position." The practical conflict had ended in a calendar, consequences, and 4 adults using the same language. My marriage had survived because Marina and I stopped confusing rescue with trust. Claire and I had not forgiven every old injury, but we had stopped making Ellie carry them. The constellation cake was never proof that I loved my daughter. It became proof of something harder. When I said I would be there, I had finally built a life that allowed me to arrive, and nobody needed to lie about the empty chair.